Hi Mum, you do everything for everyone else. Let me help you make your life easier. Quick, short information to make you empowered and remind you why you are so important. Because if you don't know what's on the menu, how can you choose what's right for you? Hi, I'm Elena, Director of my private practice Supportive Therapy, an everyday Aussie mum trying not to lose my biscuits and my kids. As a mental health professional, I'm here to share my secrets so no other mother feels alone or powerless. Knowledge is power, and I want you to be powerful. Think of it like I'm your mindset coach through all of this. Everything is backed by science and psychology. I believe in you, and I want you to be the best version of yourself. To be happy and to feel in control, you need to be mentally strong. Hello everyone, welcome to Mentally Strong Mums. My name is Elena Bishop, and today we have a very special guest. We have Liz Kent all the way from America to be able to share her program, how she supports mums. And just before we begin, I want to give a little bit of information about Liz. So especially with her profession, she empowers busy, high-functioning mums. So especially with young kids, to try and help ease the overwhelm and enhance the connection. And also within her perspective, it's about addressing the unfair division of domestic labour. And obviously this isn't all households, but in a lot of households where we feel like the majority of the responsibility is on our shoulders as mothers, this is her specialty and this is what she resonates with and helps support. So if this is something that you feel is quite common in your house and you almost carry a little bit of resentment for that, this episode is going to be amazing for you. Because with her inspiration and knowledge, she's got effective communication and delegation strategies that can help create realistic systems for support within the household. And so it can actually make the motherhood journey more fulfilling, more exciting. So a bit about her background: she's been a therapist for 16 years and she specialises in maternal mental health specifically for the past 7 years. And 7 years is a long time. And she's a mother as well. She's got 3 little kiddos, so 9, 7 and 4, as well as a husband, a dog and a kitty cat. So in her spare time, she loves to read, travel and work out. So welcome, Liz. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Elena. I'm so excited to be here with you.
Yeah, and how did you feel about that little introduction?
Oh, it always feels funny to hear people say 16 years just sounds insane to me that I've been doing this for that long, because it just doesn't feel like that. But yeah, I mean, I love working with moms. I got really passionate about this after I had my oldest, who will be 10 this year, which is just like doing a mind trip thing for me, like that I've been a mom for almost a decade now. That's been on my mind a lot. So, and just like how challenging it is. And even I have a really supportive husband, and still just the mental load and like the societal pressures and all the cultural norms of like, if the kid is sick, mom gets the first call from school.
Yes.
And all those kind of things, that it's like, it just sort of ingrained in culture, that kind of have us carrying all these extra things. And so trying to really figure out some ways to, and I think what I hear moms say is things like, I'm so busy coordinating my life that I can't really live my life. And that is just, nobody wants to live like that, you know? And so I'm really passionate about trying to help mothers figure out a way that they cannot feel like that, and come to some kind of arrangement in their household and their partnership where they don't feel like they're the only ones carrying the invisible load of, or the invisible labor of all these like tasks and stuff that go into running a family and a home and all of that.
No, I love it. And I love that we're so busy coordinating our lives that we can't actually live our life.
Yeah.
That brings us on to this beautiful question. What does it look like to implement self-care for mums? If we're so busy with everything, coordinating everyone else, everything's our responsibility, organizing everything, what does it look like for self-care?
Yeah. Such a good question, because I think we often think of self-care as like bubble baths and pedicures, and
Mm.
those things are great, but they're kind of one-off things. They're not things that we can sort of implement on the regular, usually. Who has time for like a 45-minute bubble bath every night, right? Um, and they're kind of temporary fixes, like it feels good, but you don't necessarily like feel better afterwards. And obviously, some of this goes along with kind of like getting some of the things off of your plate and figuring out how to communicate and delegate, which we'll talk about more later. But I
Mm.
think sometimes thinking about self-care is the things that we don't think about, or sort of like the part where we are setting boundaries. And that is a
Mm.
really important part of self-care. And I think about this just as an example, like when the kids' school is often asking for volunteers for things or for people to
Mm.
send in things, and that if you're the type of person that is always signing up and sending things in, you kind of get in this routine of feeling obligated, right? And sometimes it's just you do it because you feel obligated and you're always the one doing it. And sometimes that's just too much. And so
Mm.
recognizing when some of those types of things are too much, that setting that boundary and saying no, and recognizing that it's okay to say no, that doesn't make us a bad mom or,
Mm.
inattentive or not doing all the things. Because I think part of it is just, all these expectations about motherhood and all the things that we should be doing, right? Like we're supposed to be doing all these things with our kids to like have the perfect
Mm.
childhood
Mm.
experience. And when we set some boundaries on some of those and say, no, I don't have to do all of that, and practice some self-compassion
Mm.
in just that, like, it's okay, kind of trying to let go of the mom guilt a little bit and
Mm.
recognize like it's it's okay. It's not going to make you a bad mom. Your kids are not going to, not thrive because
Yeah.
you didn't volunteer for the last field trip or whatever.
I love it that your most important self-care is boundaries, because boundaries, especially for women, can be really difficult as people
Mm,
pleasers the way that we are. And I found with a lot of my own clients, if we're unable to put up a boundary, it's actually a reflection of my own self-worth and my own
mhm.
self-esteem. And if I can't have the language to do that, to be able to believe in myself and back in myself to put up that boundary, or if I've always been told that I can't use my voice to put up my boundary, it's really difficult
Yeah.
then to do that. And I think that's a really beautiful perspective. It's not just bubble baths, it's actually putting up boundaries to look after yourself. And so,
Mhm.
from your professional perspective, what are the most effective ways managing stress?
So I think what I think happens with a lot of moms is feeling like kind of overwhelmed and this
Mm.
overstimulated. Like
Mm.
we're being pulled in a lot of directions. There's a lot of auditory stimuli, like external stimuli. We have a lot of things running through our brains, and just that chronic stress and kind of like what it does to our nervous system and gets us
Mm.
in this sort of like fight or flight constantly. And so really like kind of recognizing when we're in that place,
Mm.
recognizing sort of the signs of feeling overwhelmed and overstimulated, and being able to, again, practice that self-compassion piece of like, it's okay to take a step back. I mean, I will at times tell my kids, I always give this example because my 9-year-old plays the piano beautifully, but then he will also play songs on Alexa, like at the same time that he's practicing piano. And I'm like, oh my gosh, when the
Make it
dog is
stop.
barking, kids
Make it
trying to
stop.
like, yeah, and I'm like, so, but I just like being able to like verbally say to
Mm.
him, I love when you play the piano. Can you pick one or the other? Because this is a little bit too much for me.
Mm.
Or being able to step out of the room and just say, I need 5 minutes to kind of like get myself together. I think a lot of times as moms, we sort of get this impression that like we're not supposed to take breaks, or we're not supposed to tell
Mm.
our kids that we feel uncomfortable, or, that we're having sort of like negative emotions.
Mm.
Um,
That's
but
a
actually, I think,
That's a good
yeah,
point
go
that
ahead.
you make. In previous episodes, when I've spoken about boundaries before, one of the ways that we could do it is with a compliment sandwich. And I think you actually made a beautiful example of having a compliment sandwich to your
Mhm.
child, saying something nice in the beginning. I love it that you're playing all of this music. And then the middle bit of the sandwich, which is the truth, which is you have to choose one or the other.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
right. And then the
Yeah.
bottom bit of the sandwich is that I still love you. I don't want to stop you from doing this, but just be more mindful. And I think that also wraps into that original putting up boundaries, even with your own children, but doing it in a way that's authentic to you. And that was a beautiful example of how you did that.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, I think it's so important because it's also modeling to our kids that then they can recognize and identify and verbalize when they're feeling overstimulated or they're feeling overwhelmed, and like try to understand and start to learn, what do they need in those moments? Is it too much noise? Do they need some space? So that they can use those strategies. And so I think a lot of times I tell moms that some of these things that we feel sort of like nervous or guilty about implementing with our kids are actually skills that we really want our kids to learn. And so if you sort of switch the mindset of like, by doing it yourself, you're modeling and teaching them those skills, then they're not going to end up in the same place as adults. They are trying to like learn it on the go because they never learned. So
No, it's
I think
beautiful.
sometimes,
The amount
yeah.
of clients that come in and see me as adults and they say I don't know how to argue because I never saw my parents argue. They would always argue in secret. Or
Mm,
my mum was a people pleaser and I realized that I'm just repeating that pattern because of the learned behavior.
yeah.
I'm now a people pleaser. So it's
Yeah.
wonderful as well for you to positively reinforce that it might be uncomfortable and difficult for you to do, but if you can do it in front of your child or to your child, it gives them the
Yeah.
tools and strategies to then learn that later in life as an adult.
Yeah. I don't know if you ever listened to the podcast called Good Inside. Dr. Becky, she's like
Yes.
huge in the US.
Mm,
They're calling her like the new Dr. Spock of parenting. But I just remember this one thing in an episode she talked about, in talking about like when we kind of like want to make our child feel better if they're upset, and we sort of do the like, oh, have a lollipop, or like, oh, don't cry, it's okay. And it's really, really often about our own discomfort with their
mm,
discomfort. And
mm.
so if we can sort of like sit in the discomfort, then we're teaching them like, sometimes life is going to be uncomfortable, and like this is how you figure out how to deal with it.
But that also comes back to your managing stress, because if you can
Mm-hmm.
actually sit there and regulate yourself while you're stressed or while you're upset and while you're comfortable, and then co-regulate yourself with your kid, your child,
Yeah.
then it's beneficial for everyone as opposed to putting up those walls, make it stop, have your lollipop, go away and leave me alone, or just
Right.
snapping. Turn everything off,
Right.
you know?
Right.
Mm.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Um, So, and just some basics with, I mean, the overactive nervous system, I think, I
Mm.
mean, we kind of know, we hear these things like sleep is really important, getting outside in nature, but
Mm.
just to really emphasize like the basics, I think we sort of underestimate, like sleep has such a huge
Mm.
impact on just how much tolerance we have, how much
Mm.
patience we have, how much we
Mm.
can kind of like have that clarity to recognize when we need breaks,
Mm.
to give our kids a little bit more grace and not be
Mm.
snappy if something is, hard for them. And I know that's so hard because often moms are putting their kids to bed, and then there's like this little bit of window of time that they're like, they want to scroll on their phone or, check out, do something mindless, watch TV. And then
Mm.
it ends up, 2 hours go by and you're like, oh my gosh, it's so late.
It's mum
Um,
party time.
but yeah, yeah. So really trying to like prioritize that. And just this strategy has worked. It's been helpful for me as I have started putting my cell phone charger on a table that's like not my nightstand. It's like on the
Mm.
other side of across from my bed. So that when I walk to my side of the bed before I go to sleep, I put it on the charger and then it stays on the charger, so that I'm not like laying in bed, picking it up and kind of like checking
Mm.
things or kind of
Mm.
getting back into that groove. I'm able to sort of like, okay, this is done for the day and I can
Mm.
read or whatever.
Mm.
Um,
That's also
and
comes
so
back to that self-care and those boundaries with
mm,
yourself.
yeah, yeah, setting the boundary with yourself. And again, I know that's hard because we have this little bit of window that you kind of want to do something mindless because your mind's been racing all day. But um, just like how much sleep really impacts our
Mm.
mood and our emotional regulation and our energy, and water and diet and stuff. I stopped drinking caffeinated coffee a couple years ago, and I love coffee. Like I would just drink regular black coffee. But I just noticed it was like impacting my sleep,
Mm,
even if I had 1 cup in the morning, and or sugar, I noticed like
mm.
during the day just changes my sleep pattern. So
I'm the
just kind of
exact
like,
same. So I
yeah,
still love my coffee, but it's now all decaf. I'm just because it
that's
just
what I do too.
yeah, mess with my anxiety. And it's just those little
Yeah,
tweaks that we need to do to be able to have those boundaries, have those self-care, be mature to
yeah,
make those conversations. So at least you're
yeah.
putting in this permanent way to kind of succeed as opposed to self-sabotage.
Yeah, and kind of setting your baseline up to be a little
Mm,
bit higher so that you're able to access some of those things, like when you need the extra patience or with your
mm.
kids, or the extra grace with your
And
kids.
you always need extra patience with those kids.
Yeah.
You always need it. My kids are about the same as
Yes.
yours. Mine are 10,
Yeah.
8, and 5 a year. We're pretty
Oh, yeah.
much a year. 3 little boys, you always need that patience. It just
Yeah. Yes. My own therapist keeps telling me I have to reframe with my youngest that he is not my difficult child. He is my spirited child. So I'm always, he is spirited, and trying to reframe
He's
that instead of getting
spicy. It's a spicy little
frustrated with
tamale,
him.
huh?
Yes. Yeah, that third kid really like threw us for a loop. But yeah, so I think kind of like thinking about those things and thinking about these little things, little tweaks, like you
Mm,
said, and even just like little breathing exercises. I love progressive muscle relaxation.
yes.
Um, and for anyone who's listening who's not familiar, if you just Google it, it'll give you a script. It's basically just tensing and releasing relaxing your muscles as you inhale and exhale, kind of
Mm,
paired with your breathing. You go through the different muscle groups in your body. Because I feel like you can kind of do that, at least an abbreviated version, like sitting in the carpool line,
mm,
or sitting in the doctor's office, or sitting at your desk at work, or wherever you are,
mm.
to kind of deactivate that overactive nervous system a little bit and kind of
And
calm things
sometimes you
down.
don't even realize how tense you are. And sometimes you
Yeah.
don't realize
No.
my jaw is clenched and I don't know the whole and that's a beautiful tip because if you can check in, that's part of that self-care as well, just checking in, breakfast, lunch, and dinner at some stage, or finding your little
Yeah.
habits. They call that habit stacking. So
Yeah.
yeah. So can you describe for all of our listeners about self-advocating and then communicating your
Yes.
needs? So, and I love the term that you use, self-advocating, because especially for mothers feeling that resentment, you're
Hmm.
reframing it to you're actually self-advocating.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot of it when I ask moms, like, what is the one thing you wish your partner knew about the mental
Mm,
load? Most of the answers revolve around, I wish he understood what all is involved. Like, there's just so much. And
mm,
so part of that is like, part of that is cultural, part of that is like the societal pressures, like I mentioned, part of that is women's brains work differently. And,
mm,
there's a lot of reasons, but um, ultimately, I think there has to be a lot more communication
mm,
around it, and really um, having the conversations about, hey, these are the things that really go into, if a kid is invited to a birthday party, you have to RSVP to the birthday party. You have
mm,
to get the kid, a birthday gift. You have to make sure the gift is wrapped. You have to get the kid to the birthday party on time. Like, there's all these little pieces. I don't know if you've read the book or watched the documentary, Fair Play by Eve
oh,
Rodsky. It's
no.
so good. The documentary was on Netflix, at least a while ago it was, and it really goes into the historical context of how we kind of got here with women carrying like this
Mm,
mental load piece.
mm,
But she talks about kind of when you own a task, you have to conceptualize, plan, and execute the task, like all
mm,
of the pieces.
mm,
So I personally have had, just over time, like, continued to have these conversations with my husband
mm,
about all these things that go into like just managing a house and what are all of those things, and advocating that like I can't do all of this physically, and like this is our family, not just my family. These things are for us as a collective, and also kind of bringing the kids into that too in some ways. And we could talk more about that with the delegating, but just sort of like I mentioned, like communicating your need about being overstimulated to your kids. Like it's okay to say those things. I think a lot of times women avoid the confrontation because they don't want the conflict. But also maybe they don't think their needs are worthy of being, honored, or it just, you think of it in the moment when we're frustrated, and, often people bring it up then. And then of course that never really goes well. So I always tell clients, like, as hard as it is, when things are going well is the best time to bring up something that you're frustrated about. So my best tip and strategy for that is, and this is something my husband and I implemented, gosh, maybe like 6 or 7 years ago, where we have like a weekly, not really like a weekly meeting because it's not logistics about our schedule, but just like a time where the kids go to bed, after the kids go to bed, and they know like this is the time on Wednesday nights after they go to bed, like don't come in and ask us for more stuff because we're having this time together. And where we just kind of like check in with each other. What's going on in your world? What's happening? And that's when we bring up things like, man, this kid is like really struggling with this. What can we do? And it feels so much more collaborative than just me. I mean, as I'm a therapist, so I notice things about my kids that my husband like just doesn't know or understand. And I think a lot of moms have that kind of like intuition, or they read more parenting blogs and books and, want to try out these different strategies, or, hey, I think we should do this. And so having a set time where we kind of sit down and talk every week about how the kids are doing, what's going on in our work. It's usually like work, kids, and in-laws are like the three big topics. But, how are we managing all these stressors?
That in-law conversation can always be a bit sticky, can't it?
Yeah. So, and that way it feels more like a conversation and not just like, hey, I think that you should talk to the kids differently, or, discipline them differently or something. It's more like us coming together. And so being able to kind of ask for that, and advocate for that.
It's beautiful because it's making one a commitment to each other. And even though we're communicating, we're actually connecting. And in that, I don't feel alone. I feel like I'm being heard. And sometimes it feels like, especially with mums who have anxiety, and we're constantly in that flight, and we can't sit down, we can't relax, we're overwhelmed, we can't, and then it feels like the man can't do anything right. So he just doesn't do anything at all. And he's frozen because he's trying to hide somewhere. Do you know?
Right.
Because he's scared of upsetting you. He's scared of doing something wrong, and he's scared that he's going to set you off again because you're doing it. He's not doing it the way that you expect it to. And so you, by saying that, getting each other on the same page, he can then feel appreciated and understand, because men need black and white, logical. But the female mother also needs that connection, that you understand me, you see me, we can be on the same page. And it's that beautiful commitment to each other as a family, as a unit, and I don't feel alone and I don't feel isolated. And sometimes couples or families that don't do this yet, it can feel very awkward or forced because I don't want to feel like a burden, or I don't know how to express my needs. But once this becomes normal, how beautiful it is that you've actually got like a ride or die, someone's got your back.
Yeah, for sure. And honestly, like I said, we started this, like, I think when my second was like a baby, and she's 7. So, and we've been doing it pretty much weekly since then. And it's like one of my favorite parts of the week. I look forward to it on those days, and it's like nice to know. And the kids, like, over some time, they've learned that like, this is the time that mom and dad are talking, and you need to hold off unless it's an emergency, coming in and asking questions or getting water or whatever.
Can I have a banana? Can I go to the toilet? Can you read me a book? And I'm like, all right.
Yes, lay with me.
Yes. Yeah.
1 more minute.
So,
with all
of this, information that's been so fabulous. How can mums delegate and ask for help?
So this is so hard, I think, for moms too. And I think a lot of times, women, moms tend to feel like this sense of wanting things done a certain way. And I
Mm,
think we have to kind of understand that if you want the help, you can't expect everything to be done exactly the way you would do it. And you have to
mm,
adjust your expectations a little
mm,
bit.
mm.
And often that comes from like we have really high expectations of ourselves. And so
Yeah.
we're setting these really high bars for everybody around us, including our kids,
Mm,
partner.
mm,
And so kind of being able to look at like, are these expectations realistic for me, for everybody else? And what do I not want to do? What do I want to take off my plate? And that means it might not be done exactly the same way that I would do it.
mm,
Um, and I think making it again like a family. I mean, once your kids are like old enough, I mean, my 4-year-old does some minimal chores, like kind of involving the kids in other things. And I talk to my kids about that. I make my older kids fold their laundry, and the younger one folds his underwear and socks every week. And they grumble and complain, but I'm like, we have 5 people living in this house, and I do loads of laundry every day,
yes.
and it's not going to happen. Or if I'm folding all of it, then I don't have time to like go in the backyard and throw a ball around with you or
Mm,
play a card game or read you a book. And so kind of like letting them understand too that to have the time and space for us to all do like the fun stuff,
mm,
everybody has to chip in.
mm.
So I think that's really important. And just also just teaching them like we all live here, we're all part of a family. um, and these are, some things that we all have to do to kind of make our house and our family function.
No, I love that. And especially as you say, they're going to grumble and fight back and push back. But I think once you start getting into the routine and you push past that uncomfortable fighting stage, trying to get in here and do it, then it's expected, it's part of the routine, everyone's on the same page, and then it's makes for a better family life. So I think it's really nice that you acknowledge that it's not always easy and it can be a bit of a struggle, but to do it as a family unit and to teach really important family values and to doing things, and it's not just the mum that has to do everything. You can fold your own
Yeah.
socks, you fold your own jocks. I'm not touching your
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I make my kids like they have for a while have packed themselves if we're going away somewhere for a weekend. And
Mm,
I will never forget this because maybe 2 years ago, my 9-year-old packed his bag for the beach and for a weekend, and he forgot underwear.
mm,
And just the like also the natural like lesson in that is that he has never forgotten underwear packing
mm.
for anything ever since then. And it was like 2 days. Had access to a washing machine. It was like not a big deal. But he was like, oh my gosh, mom, I forgot underwear. And I'm like, it's fine, but next time I think you'll probably remember it. So kind of
And
just people learning those lessons for themselves too.
yeah, well, you'd rather learn them at least when they're younger and you've got mum to be able to overcompensate in some way than after when they're out in the world and stuff. So I think that's really lovely. Mm,
Yeah. And I find that like we kind of do Saturday earlier in the day is like we get all the life chores done and we talk about that. And I find that my husband is, we're all kind of involved with that because we're all doing it.
mm,
And then we talk about like when we finish this, we can have our family movie night, or we can do something fun, or we're going to have Sunday to like just chill and play and
mm, mm,
whatever, because we're all involved. And so I think kind of having that like mindset of everybody's doing this to like keep our house running
mm,
together is
mm.
helpful.
No, it's huge. And especially for our mothers out there that haven't implemented this or don't even know where to begin or don't know the strategies and the communication, or even when you were talking about self advocacy. So, if mothers were really overwhelmed and if they're hearing this for the first time, that there is solutions, that there is someone out there, how can you help our mums if they want to be able to find you? Do you have some kind of,
Yeah.
yeah, let us know.
Yeah. Yeah. So, one of the reasons I went into coaching from therapy is because I can work with clients all over the world, where
Mm,
therapy, I'm very limited to, I'm licensed in 2 states in the US. So I could only see clients there. So coaching gives me a lot broader range to be able to work with a lot more moms, which is great. So I have a coaching program, and I have a free Facebook group that I do lots of live trainings, and I have some freebie guides, and I'm always posting stuff that I see and think of that can be helpful. And so that is called Mental Load Mastery for Moms. You can find that on Facebook. And
so it's mental, what was it?
Mental Load Mastery for
Mental
Moms.
Load Mastery for Moms.
Yeah.
And it's in Australia, we spell mums MUM. So if you go
Yes.
Mental Load Mastery for MOM.
MOM, yes.
Cool. So if you're going to go find Liz, if you love her, if you want to be able to grow and evolve and join her coaching program, Mental Load Mastery for Mums, but it's MOM, mom. And you're able to join a Facebook group, and that's Facebook.com/groups/Liz Kent Coaching, LIZKENT, Kent Coaching. Well, isn't that amazing that you give on your Facebook all the live stuff and stuff within your coaching program?
Yes. Yeah. So, and I'm also on Instagram at liz.kent.coaching, and put stuff on there. So yeah, so put lots of free stuff out there. And then, like I said, I have a 12-week coaching program for moms who really want to like get into this stuff and get it figured out and get some good results in a short period of time. So
no, I love it. And 12 weeks goes by so fast. And with all of this, I've still got that original sentence. I'm so busy coordinating my family's life that I can't live my life.
Yeah, I know. That really stuck out to me too, because that's what it feels like sometimes, is like doing all the planning, organizing, and can't just like enjoy your family.
No, I understand. It has been an absolute pleasure. And I think for this as well, giving mums hope, because if you're able to do all of this, and especially if you join your coaching program, it's about stress, it's about communication, it's understanding your own self-care and boundaries and how to do these little things within your household, just these little tweaks that can actually change your entire family dynamic. And then you actually get peace and happiness.
Yeah. That's the goal.
All right. That's all we need. You just want to be happy.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure sharing and talking with you. And I have never been to Australia, but I have been to New Zealand. So I've been over on that side of the world, but it's been a long time. So.
Yeah. Well, one day you're always welcome.
One day.
To visit. Australia is great.
Yes.
But I really appreciate your time, and thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you so much.
If you are hearing this message, you've listened to the entire episode, and for that, I want to thank you for your support. It takes me hours to research and create this for you, so I genuinely hope you enjoyed it and felt more mentally strong. If you have any suggestions or improvements, let me know, because I'm always open for criticisms. If you have found my information useful, please leave a review and subscribe. So by leaving a review, it's a value exchange. It's good karma. I value your support just as much as you value my free information. So find me on Instagram and Facebook by searching Mentally Strong Mums, and I'm Aussie, so we're spelled MUM. And then you can find heaps of resources on www.mentallystrongmums.com. And this podcast is for you. So let me know what topics you would like to see covered in future episodes. And if yourself is a professional that is working with mums and would like to be a guest to help other mums be mentally strong, I would love to support you. So message me on Instagram on Mentally Strong Mums, MUMS, all one word. Thank you so much for your time. Have a wonderful day, you beautiful mum.